All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about a massive shift in the world of blockchains. We're moving from a world where you have to write out a super detailed recipe for every single thing you want to do, to a world where you can just tell the chef what you want to eat.
You see this quote? This is everything. This single idea is at the heart of a whole new way of thinking. For years, we've had to tell computers exactly how to do something, step by painful step. It's like getting in a taxi and giving the driver turn-by-turn directions instead of just telling them your destination. We're finally moving to a model where we just tell them what we want. So let's break down what this actually means for all of us.
So, to really get where we're going, we first have to understand the frustrations of where we are right now. For pretty much the last decade, blockchains have forced every user to be both the chef and the recipe writer. And as we're about to see, that's created some pretty serious problems.
Yeah, so blockchains have always run on what's called an imperative model. The best way to think about it is like a super detailed, complicated recipe. You don't just ask for a cake. You have to spell out every single tiny step. Preheat the oven to exactly 350 degrees. Mix exactly 2.5 cups of flour with 1.5 cups of sugar. The entire burden of getting it right and all the risk if you mess up just one step is completely on you.
Let's make this real. Say you want to trade one crypto asset for another. Well, right now, you're responsible for the whole shebang. You have to go find the right exchange, you have to figure out the exact trading route, maybe go from asset A to ETH and then over to asset B. You have to calculate the right fees so your transaction doesn't get stuck, and then you sign off on that one very specific, very rigid path.
Now here's where it gets really interesting and honestly, pretty messed up. When you broadcast your recipe, you're telling the entire network your exact plan before it even happens. This makes you a sitting duck. It opens the door for things like front-running and what we call MEV, or maximal extractable value. It's basically like shouting your poker hand out loud before you bet. Predatory bots see your trade coming, they jump in right ahead of you, buy up the asset to pump the price, and then they sell it to you at that new, higher price. They literally profit from your information, at your expense.
Okay, so if the whole recipe model is so broken, what's the alternative? What if, instead of writing the recipe yourself, you could just tell a master chef what you're in the mood for?
This new model is built around a really powerful idea called an intent. And an intent is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a clear statement of your goal. You're not the recipe writer anymore. You're the customer in the restaurant, just telling the chef your desired outcome.
And this is the absolute key, this shift right here. You are no longer defining the how. You're just declaring what you will accept as a final result. It's like saying, hey, I'm willing to trade these 10 tokens of asset A if, and only if, I get at least 20 tokens of asset B in return. You don't care how it happens as long as your conditions are met.
Now, this all sounds great in theory, right? But how does it actually work? How can a network possibly understand your desires? Let's pop the hood and look at the Anoma architecture that makes this whole thing possible.
Okay, so first, you create your intent, and you broadcast it out into something called an intent gossip network. The best way to picture this is like a huge public bulletin board full of everyone's wishes and desires. It's not a line of transactions waiting to be processed. It's this dynamic, living pool of goals, all waiting to be matched up.
And this slide really nails a core difference. These intents get settled on the Anoma resource machine. Now, unlike Ethereum's model, which is kind of like moving money between two buckets, the resource machine thinks of assets as Lego bricks. They are resources that get consumed and created in one single atomic step. And atomic just means it's all or nothing. The transaction is only valid if the Legos perfectly balance out. This allows for incredibly complex trades to happen all at once, with zero risk that one part fails while another goes through.
The language that's used to write the rules for these resources is called Juvix, and its whole philosophy is simple but absolutely revolutionary. Makes super advanced features, especially privacy, incredibly simple for developers to actually use.
So here's the magic. A developer can write code in Juvix, and it looks a lot like other programming languages they already know. This is a total game changer, because it means you don't have to be a PhD-level cryptographer to build private applications anymore. The whole Anoma system automatically takes that simple code and compiles it down into the ridiculously complex zero-knowledge proofs that you need for true programmable privacy.
So you're probably wondering, if I just state what I want, who's actually doing the work to make it happen? Well, this is where a whole new digital industry of matchmakers comes into play.
This is where solvers come in. Solvers are these sophisticated, specialized programs. Think of them as competing chefs in our analogy.
They are constantly scanning that network of intents, looking for opportunities to combine different people's desires to find the most efficient way to get everyone the best possible deal.
And look, this isn't just some far-off theory. A whole ecosystem is already popping up around this. You've got projects like Barter that act as macro solvers, searching across tons of different venues to find you the best price. Then there's Fairblock, which gives you crucial privacy by basically putting a shield around your intents so those predatory bots can't see it. And companies like Tetrix are using intents to build totally new kinds of financial products that just weren't possible before.
And this example perfectly shows what's now possible. With intents, you can express a really complex desire like, okay, I want to provide liquidity to this pool, but only if I can simultaneously buy an options contract that protects me from losing money. These two completely separate actions can now be bundled together and executed atomically. It's all or nothing. If one part can't happen, the whole deal is off, which completely removes the risk for you, the user.
But you know, this is about so much more than just getting better trades or cool new financial toys. This is a fundamental shift in user sovereignty and our control over our own digital lives. Because you can write the rules for your assets directly in Juvix, you get something called programmable data sovereignty. And this is a huge deal. You can literally program your digital assets to say, this piece of art can only be sold to a member of this specific online community, or this private medical data can only be viewed by a verified doctor and only for the next 24 hours. You get full, fine-grained control.
So here's the bottom line. We are finally moving from a world that forces us to twist our desires to fit the machine's limitations, like, waiting until 3 a.m. to make a transaction to avoid high network fees, to a world where the entire purpose of the machine is to optimize for human desire. The system works for you, not the other way around.
And that leaves us with a final, big thought. For more than a decade, we've been limited by what we could explicitly tell a computer to do. So what becomes possible when technology can finally understand what we actually want, not just what we say? The possibilities, well, they're pretty extraordinary.